The views presented in this program are not meant to express the specific views of the Lafayette Bible Fellowship. You are listening to the Vigilance Radio Network.
Welcome back. Sorry. Off with a bang. All right. Welcome back to the Culture Insanity Podcast. This is episode number 18. Insert sponsors here. We have none. Welcome back to our podcast. Yeah, it's been a few weeks, I feel like. Yeah. Busy people, busy time, summer. Things going on personally, things going on at the church. But we're back. We're happy to be back. So this is episode number 18. Just rattling off what's on the docket for the show. Don't really have anything that you guys have to worry about necessarily in terms of spoilers. We're not talking really about any big blockbusters or crazy things like that. We might talk about a show that neither of us have seen, but so what's on the docket? We have, just to perk the ears, we're going to talk a little bit about a Netflix show and some alleged child pornography. Or not. We'll talk about it. There's a Netflix show called Desire that's under some fire right now, based on what it's depicting, I guess. We have the latest persecution, quote-unquote, of the trans community, specifically the transgender actress Laverne Cox and her current torch she's bearing in terms of what the trans community is up in arms about currently. We're going to be talking about some controversy over the comic book Shazam and a reprint of that was going to happen. We have sort of along the same lines of what we maybe have talked about before, but the movie Animal House and just comedy versus the current climate we find ourselves in, I guess, and like what is acceptable these days. And then last but not least, Kids Bop and how terrible it is. No, Kids Bop and just the, I don't know if you call it irony. Irony of Kids Bop, and yeah, we'll go on to more of that later. So, got a few things on the docket. Nothing, nothing super heavy, but maybe also, I don't know.
Right, not hyper controversial subjects.
Yeah, not for us at least.
Right.
Everything is controversial.
We like to talk about these things every day.
Right, child pornography is my favorite topic of discussion.
And there's the sound clip.
Whatever. Welcome back. It's episode number 18. So, without further ado, Netflix. Netflix has a show. It's a show or movie? I think it's a movie, actually. Desire. This I think it's a Spanish movie. It's called Desire. It's a thriller of some sort. I haven't seen it, so I can't talk a lot about it. But I did read an article earlier this week talking about this movie and how it's under fire from a lot of, parent groups and stuff because of what is being depicted in it. So basically the long and short of it is there's a scene in the movie where a young girl is masturbating, although there's some speculation on our part about what is actually masturbation. But so there's a scene where a young girl is depicted as masturbating in the movie, and parent groups are on its case because of that, because of the use of child actors portraying really heavy content and really inappropriate for kids material, so on and so forth. Let's see if I'll read a little snippet for you. I'll just read you what it's about. The film depicts a 9-year-old girl masturbating and accidentally experiencing an orgasm while watching a cowboy film with another young girl. The movie scene shows the girl bouncing up and down in slow motion on a pillow as if on a horse, and then there's like a close-up on the girl's face. And then, these parent groups brought it to Twitter, and of course then it amassed a following there. What I thought was interesting in terms of this article was I posted to our thread, Josh. The director, I think it is, the director said this. First of all, he's a father, and so he's hyper aware of being sensitive to that material, and to what he was doing. So he says this: "Of course, this scene was filmed using a trick, which was that the girls were copying a cowboy scene. The girls never understood what they were doing. They were just copying what they were seeing on the screen. No adult interacted with the girls other than the child acting coach. Everything was done under the careful surveillance of the girl's mother. Because I knew the scene might cause some controversy at some point, I even made sure to have making of footage of the film for the entirety of those scenes." He said this, which is, I thought, the most interesting thing he had to say. He said, "Everything works inside the spectators' heads, and how you think this scene was filmed will depend on your level of depravity." I thought that was a really interesting statement from him. But where we're coming from, well, first of all, I had the question, is there some sort of line when it comes to the use of child actors and actresses that should be... like we talk about it in terms of comedy, like is there a line for comics type thing? Is there a line for the use of child actors in terms of the content that's being portrayed for maybe adult audiences? And then we have another question on here of what is pornography versus art? But, what do you think as a base? Like, do you think that there should be some sort of line in the sand about that? Should kids be aware, or is ignorance bliss in those situations, in trying to be authentic in art and storytelling and these things, like is ignorance the best possible mechanism?
I mean, I think that there's very few cases where it would make sense to portray masturbation on screen, especially from a kid. The thing that I'm more concerned about, so I would say the general answer would be no, it shouldn't be done. Was that the question? What was the question?
The question is there a line in the sand that should be drawn when it comes to using kids to depict more adult themes? And is ignorance, like he's saying they had no idea what they were doing. They were told, copy what you see on the screen. And it's just, an innocent thing of a cowboy.
It depends, right? Like I don't know. Was there blowback to Linda Blair masturbating with a cross during The Exorcist?
Wasn't there? I don't know.
I don't know. But to me, there's definitely a line there.
Maybe that's different because it's depicted as... That's clearly evil, right?
Well, yeah.
The content of The Exorcist is not the same as this, maybe.
Well, yeah, there's that. For me, so yes, I do think that there's a line in the sand that should be drawn. I don't think that based upon what I've read of it, I haven't seen it, but I don't think based upon what I've read of it, I would call that masturbation. I think that people are being really sensitive. Was it a moment of sexual awakening that needed to be shown or not shown? I don't know. I'd have to know about the story. If it was it depends on the point of it. Like, if it was to arouse an adult audience, that's inappropriate. If it was showing, if it's like a boy and a girl kissing, for instance, that's a sexual moment. Like in
Stranger Things.
Sure, in
right?
Stranger Things.
It came up when the filmmakers surprise the child actors with a kissing scene, right?
Totally, right. I was actually thinking of the one with Macaulay Culkin and that one girl who decided not to act anymore. The one with the bees. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
My Girl is what it's called. There's like a kissing scene in My Girl. It's like that's a sexual moment between minors that's being depicted on screen. Is that inappropriate? It could be inappropriate depending on what you're doing with it. So when you're talking about Linda Blair, who was a child, who was clearly simulating an act of masturbation, even if she didn't know what she was doing and her parents were watching, then I think that that's inappropriate.
I don't know how you get. I don't know how you approach that without being full disclosure with the kid. You know.
Well, how do you approach it without a framework of morality? Well, that's the other thing. Like, it's a biological function. Mm-hmm. That's how do you approach that without the framework of God? Like, it's not sacred if you don't have that framework that everything is moral. There are certain things that should be kept moral that are not simply biological. Like if you read the work of like not Kinsey, who am I thinking of? Is it B.F. Skinner? I can't remember, but was just he. I should look it up. In any case, if you read like certain authors' writings, certain like psychologists' writings, they'll tell you that it's just this natural thing. I think it was Kinsey, and that people should be able to do what they want with who they want whenever their bodies are ready to do what they do. So, like, I mean, at what point does it become? At what point do parents become outraged by that? Well, they become outraged because there's a moral framework that they're working within. So first, you have to ask yourself about the moral framework, and if you are working on a moral framework, and then that is what gives you the right to be outraged if you have the Linda Blair exorcist scene. That's what gives you the right to be outraged if you have this scene and, as the director says, you have a dirty mind. Mm-hmm. But there's also something that, in my mind, is just sort of fascinating about the prudeness of sexuality within culture, and especially Christian culture. Like, so what? The girl had a sexual awakening. Like,
yeah,
how many times have you heard that?
I think in the movie, I think it's an innocent moment. Like,
right.
Like
that's how it's described by the director.
As I read it, right? Like, it's a moment. She's with her friend in the room or whatever, and like they're being silly or something.
Right.
They're being silly, and then it happens. Like,
right.
she has an orgasm or something like
right.
that. But it's not. That's all it is. Like,
well, you've heard those stories of like women. What is it? Their hymens? Is that what it is? Breaking, like, or maybe it's not breaking, but like riding on a horse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's a thing. Like that's a thing.
Like young girls.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why it was that women weren't allowed to ride that way. They, you know how like in the old movies and all that, they were supposed to ride with the two legs hanging over the saddle instead of with their pelvis against the saddle. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like both legs on one side?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like a lady.
Like it's proper or whatever?
Right.
Interesting. I've never took note of that.
Yeah. Or like, have you heard of like Lady Godiva riding naked on a horse? Never heard these things?
No.
In any case, yeah, so it's like, I don't think there's anything overtly sexual if they're just showing that she had like a sexual awakening at a young age. Like, so women do. Like,
yeah.
It's not a big deal. If it's something to arouse adults, that's inappropriate.
Yeah, to be used.
And let me just say, I don't necessarily agree that there is a situation in which that story has to be told. So I don't know that it needed to be depicted for the story, but am I just going to say across the board that
as a general blanket statement?
Yeah,
that's bad.
Any depiction of that is somehow amoral. First of all, who are you to talk about what's moral or not? You have to have a certain framework to talk about that.
Otherwise, it's just out of thin air. It's arbitrary.
Right, it's arbitrary.
Yeah.
And then secondly, like, once you can talk about it, what makes that moral and amoral? I don't know. Like,
yeah, I just thought his statement at the end was really interesting about maybe it's bad to culture because culture is so far fallen, you know, so
right.
far depraved or whatever. So, but then it's ironic because if a culture is so far depraved, why are they taking a high ground on certain subjects, certain things, you know, like
right.
There is no framework in culture, so why is it bad? Why
Right.
is this bad? Why is this not bad? Why is this acceptable? Why is this not acceptable?
Right. I think people are just being sensitive, although I would question the need to show that particular sexual awakening on screen.
Yeah, it's not like a... yeah. It's not like a... Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I kind of feel like I want to watch it now to see what the story is about with this girl.
Yeah.
It's not like a coming-of-age story of overcoming fears or something.
Well, it's desire, right? So they're probably saying that
Some sort of
that
hypersexuality is involved.
Yeah, I'm sure that's involved.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, there's that. On to the next. So I was telling you about this yesterday, the Laverne Cox thing.
Right.
So Laverne Cox, who's famous for being a trans actress that is Emmy nominated.
Oh, Heidi wants to tell us that it's called riding side saddle.
Side saddle. So it's a thing. It's called.
It's a side. It's
riding
a
side
thing.
saddle.
Yeah.
Anyways, Laverne Cox, she's a transgender actress that's in that Netflix show Orange is the New Black with all the women in prison.
And by that you mean that she is biologically a man.
By saying she's a transgender actress?
Right.
So when I say actress, the implication is that she's a man. Yes.
Well, when you say she, when you're giving her pronoun that she wants, this is all part of the discussion.
There's a disclaimer.
Right?
When I say a pronoun, if I say a pronoun right now, it's out of convenience to get through the headline.
Sure. Well, this is all part of that discussion, right?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So, and I don't want to say it because
that's inappropriate.
Because it's he, she, whatever is human.
Well, he was made in the image of God, and therefore, deserves his biological, teleological signature. But that being said,
we can't even get through the freaking headline. Yeah, okay, when I talk about this, if I say one pronoun or the other, it's out of laziness, so I would ask for grace as I try to just get through the headline.
Get through it, go ahead. I just don't want to be confusing.
Yeah, no, it's already confusing, I'm sure. Laverne Cox, trans actress, when I say that, she's a man, biologically. She is upset because of some police department, I guess, in Florida. I think it's like Jacksonville or something. They recently made a statement that when coming across a dead trans person, however they died, whatever, they were going to refer to that person by whatever they were born as, boy or girl. Okay, they're not gonna worry about the mess of what we're talking about right now. Okay, because it's not their problem type thing. So they said, this is what we're going to do. Well, she's pissed off about that, and it's the latest in the trans community's persecution, and it even has a name now when whatever emergency service official or whoever refers to a dead trans person, if they don't refer to them by their preferred trans pronoun, right, by their preferred pronoun, then it is called dead naming. Soak that in. It's called dead naming.
Dead naming.
Try to not laugh too much. I did. I'll be honest. It's ridiculous. Dead naming. So referring to a trans person by their biological pronoun.
I mean, I gotta hand it to them. I really like the
noun.
Yeah, it's catchy.
It's catchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, dead naming.
It's like the person who does the PR should get paid a lot.
Do you think the trans community has a PR crew?
I 100% think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Like they have lawyers and stuff?
Yeah, and I wish that they would come work for the Christians because...
Dead naming. That's
dead
good.
naming is great.
So, dead naming. Is dead naming... Where do we go from there? Is dead naming a reasonable practice? Is dead naming necessary? Is it a blatant act of disrespect to not refer? And then, I mean, this opens up the Pandora's box. So this is what that guy Jordan Peterson got heavily scrutinized for.
Right.
Because this gets into an issue of freedom of speech.
Yeah.
When you're forced to call someone this or that, and
in Canada they aren't free to.
Yeah, Measure C-16 or something was the Canadian piece of legislation that tried to enact this policy where it would be illegal to not refer to a trans person by their preferred pronoun. Right. So there's this psychologist guy, he was University of Toronto, Jordan Peterson. He's super popular currently. This was what catapulted him into the limelight, was this exact thing, refusing to not get caught up in this.
Right.
So is it reasonable? Like, what? Why are they? I mean, I know why, but yeah, is it necessary? Is it reasonable? I don't know. It's such a
Of
silly
course
thing.
it is. Of course it's. Wait, what are you asking? Are you asking? Is it reasonable to?
Is it reasonable for people to follow this? Is it reasonable for people to know these things? First of all, how is that documented? Is that documented officially? Like,
Is somebody's
a person that
special
is trans,
pronoun documented?
Yeah, like, is that kind of thing documented? What's the expectation for a police officer or a firefighter or a paramedic?
Well, they're trying to make it so that it. I think California now has special pronouns on their licenses. Let me look at that. Let me
Do
look
they?
that up. But yeah.
Yeah, like how can the mass?
Well, maybe it's Oregon that has them actually.
Maybe we are home to
A large community.
Portland. Yeah. Like, how is that expectation even upheld? Like, unless is it documented on your license? Like, is that what's being suggested? Like, obviously the person, not to sound insensitive, but the person has died. Like, they can't advocate for themselves in the moment when someone is referring to them. Like,
Liz McCarthy says it's Oregon.
really?
Yeah, but I just pulled up on Smithsonian Magazine. California becomes the first state to introduce gender-neutral birth certificates.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a starting point. So it's on a birth certificate. But yeah, like, and I guess I have to.
Well, so here's what it is. The body is teleological in design. What does that mean? It means that it speaks to the nature of the person. So, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. What I mean by that is that a man, for instance, cannot, at this point, and not naturally, give birth, for instance, right?
Not naturally, right?
Right.
Science is making way.
Right. So, to that end, because a man cannot give birth, for instance, his body speaks to the fact that he cannot give birth. A woman cannot produce semen, for instance. Her body speaks to that fact. So the body is teleological in nature. It speaks to certain facts about our identity and how we're created. The issue is that people don't see themselves as created in the image of God anymore, and because they refuse to recognize God and see themselves as part of His creation. They refuse to see His stamp on their identity, and so they've disconnected personhood from the body, and so the body has no teleology anymore, and so because of that, it can just be whatever it wants to be. And this is an issue of Laverne Cox and that community in particular, taking it outside of the realm of even the physical and now trying to make it into not just a special pronoun in the sense that it's how a person sees themselves inside their head. It's no longer an issue of personhood, but now they're trying to return their version of personhood back to the body. And that's, I mean, honestly, if you don't have the Christian framework, like, if you don't have the framework of a creator God who loves us and purposes and us with intelligent design, then why not? That's the thing. The problem is that there's a lot of things that begin to falter at that point. And when we look at police, for instance, the idea of a police state that respects its people and polices them out of love and care, it's just non-existent. The idea of a police state, that's just not going to happen. So if you're going to have police that are out there taking care of the people, they're going to have to come from a Christian framework. They're going to need to borrow it from Christianity in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, they become a fascist state. And so it's really interesting, like, the very thing that Laverne Cox and that community, the very freedom that they want protected, they're actually pushing to have taken away. It's kind of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of that same thing with pushing for marriage, right? It's like they push so hard to have marriage equality, quote unquote, that now they have subjected their sense of personhood and their right to be married to the state. And once the state decides that it doesn't want to play nice with them anymore, they're going to be in trouble. So, but anyway, in my mind, it comes down to the teleological nature of the body and the responsibility of people to see themselves in that way. So, yeah, not only what Scripture would teach is that not only are we biological, not only is our biological designation who we are as a person, but it's informative of who we are. In other words, my soul is a man. Not just my body is a man, but my soul is a male soul. It is equipped to be a father. It's equipped to be a son. A female soul is equipped to be a mother. It's equipped to be a daughter. It's equipped to be a sister. That's what Scripture would teach. And I believe that science shows that. I mean, there's no escaping the biological fact. Even when you look at sort of the aberrations, you know, like the double XYs and things like
Jamie
that.
Lee Curtis.
Sure. Yeah, even when you look at those things aren't the rule. You know, and when you look at the real science of that, like look into like hermaphrodites and things like that, those things don't work. I mean, anyway, yeah, dead naming. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I mean, look, we can't even like approach the subject without it being confusing and like, well, how do we do? What? You know, like, I don't know. When I'm asking myself the question if it's reasonable, like, I don't know. It's just such an awkward thing. Just even in your like a daily conversation, when you're not trying to be offensive, when you're just trying to refer.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, shave down the bones, like the pelvic region bones of a female body? You know, like
I'm sure some people
we can go through and
would be happy to.
We can go through and we can remove, again, the teleological nature of the body from our records. But when we do that, we're still going to have to go through and make a special designation for those people. Now, you can take it, 3 or 4 steps away from it so that we're not calling them, so that we're not dead naming them, quote unquote, and calling them female when they were born male, and
or calling them this name when they prefer this
or
name.
so on and so forth. But somewhere in the record, if you're going to do any sort of medical autopsy or anything like that, you're going to be able to see the distinction between the male and the female on a biological level. And you're going to have to be able to talk about that on record in order to talk about all sorts of medical things. There are things that are specific to males and females.
That's an interesting point. Like, yeah, you're doing an autopsy. You can't just keep lying. Like, you have to be able to refer and to talk about things, like when they come up, and to ignore it, like is that what's ultimately being asked, is just ignore the truth of who this person was created as, and just to continue lying, and it's like it's just a mad world. Like, right. Seriously?
Well, I think you're right. I think it is ultimately what's being asked.
Wow. Like, let's all just live. They're asking us all to just lie to each other and ourselves.
Heidi just said
that's at the root of it.
How long will they want that designation? An archaeological dig will not hold that information. And that's true. An archaeological dig will show that these people were genetically male or female.
Yeah. It makes my head spin. It's exhausting.
Yeah. Well, it's where we are. It's where we are. Every time we turn around.
It's one of those things, like, there are far more important things to stress out over and to worry about and to work toward, for me and for you, than that.
Sure.
Like, really?
Well, should we be worried about that concept of dead naming? And I think we should, but I don't think it represents anything new. I think it just represents the latest push to take personhood away from the body, and I think it's really important that people understand.
I can't imagine, and I haven't done any research into this, so don't hold it against me, but I can't imagine in countries where, I mean, just say third world countries, or countries that are less fortunate than America or any Western European countries or whatever. I can't imagine this exists very much. What do you think? Like, I don't know.
Well, it doesn't exist very much in America.
Like, statistically, like, if you were to do studies, like, what's the trans community like in most parts of Africa? What's the trans community like in, these impoverished Latin American countries or something like that? Like, I can't imagine, and again, I haven't done any research into this and whatever, but I can't imagine that this exists, like this phenomenon and this current.
Well, that's just because you are a cisgendered white male.
Yeah,
white Christian male.
Yep. Can't talk about it, can't comment on it, can't whatever. But I'd be interested to look up some studies and some surveys and whatever, statistics of people who are wrestling with their sexuality and stuff.
Right.
Because just like I'm talking, like, that's not, I would say that's the least of their concern, but that's not even a concern, Like, they're trying to survive just survive, like, let alone. But again, you can't comment on that because you don't understand. But
well, I mean, I want to be clear. Like, people who are transgendered are people who, I mean, we used to define that as. In fact, we still do define it as gender dysphoria, but it used to be seen as an extreme confusion, like something that needed to be worked on, and now there's a whole community being built around it as this thing that is a defining sense of identity. And I want to be clear that we, especially as believers, like, we should feel the pain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we should feel the pain of the confusion, because I think that most of the people who are going through that actually have that confusion. That must be really difficult, to be disconnected from the teleological nature of your body. That doesn't mean that your inclination, even if it's like a fully felt inclination, is correct.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of goes back to, like, Plato, and, well, that's not. It kind of, I'm going into, like, deep philosophy now, but, like, basically, our bodies are gifts. They're not something to be thrown away. They're not something to be changed. They're not something to be altered in order to fit how we feel on the inside. When we look at something like female circumcision, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
It's like female circumcision is viewed by feminists, even if it's done by choice, even if it's, like, part of the culture, and those women see that as a rite of passage, which does happen. It's viewed as taking away from that person's femininity, right? But in this case, in this particular practice, in this particular thought process, that's what they do. Like, if a female wants, or if a female feels disconnected from their female body and they wish to become a man, they want to abdicate these things about them, their potential for motherhood. And yeah, you can say, oh, well, they can be a mother without having a baby. But let's be clear, like, there are certain chemicals that are released.
Yeah,
there's certain hormones that people have.
Mm-hmm.
That is a gift that God has given us so that we can understand better what we're suited for, according to Scripture. So, and quite frankly, according to the entire history of humankind.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like we're focusing heavily on this, and I want to be clear, like, it's not something to be made light of. It's definitely something to be. I'm not saying you're doing that. Yeah. It's not something to be made light of. It's something to be sad about, and the question that we need to be asking ourselves, those of us who are, as they call, cisgendered, which I balk at that term too, but those of us who feel a strong connection to the teleological nature of our body and believe that our biology informs our personhood, we have a responsibility to
reach out to these people,
really struggle with how to
and it's
do right
the same,
by them.
I mean, it's the same with, it's not greater or lesser than someone who struggles with, I don't know, any number of things, being violent towards people, right? Like, they have an inclination on valuing people and things, and so we should feel grieved for that, and we should be reaching out to them in a way that, can speak into their lives and speak into what we know and all these things. Like it's not just when it comes to sexuality, you know. That's certainly like
Right.
a popular topic of discussion, you know, more and more. But it's with anything that where someone is not living to be who they were created to be, and not respecting that, and not respecting all of that, you know. And so it's sexuality, it's the value of man, like humanity. I mean, any number of things. What's something else, like off the top of your head?
Well, and like I'm looking at some statistics right now, and just to give you like an example of it, this is from 2015.
Marriage, you know.
Oh
like
yeah,
someone
totally.
who struggles with marriage and all these things.
Fatherhood,
Yeah.
and like all sorts of things. But 2015 had stats for 41% of people. The percentage of transgender people who have attempted suicide is 41%.
Wow.
Now, just so you understand, 41% of 0.3% of Americans.
41% of 0.3% of Americans. So
That's right.
0.3% of Americans are trans.
Identify
as trans.
Identify as trans.
Okay. And 40% of those people have attempted suicide.
Right. So
that's sad.
You can tell right from that point that a large number of people who suffer from gender dysphoria are really suffering.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, really hurting. So it's not to make... I just want to be clear, like, I don't want to make light of the struggle that these people are going through, because they are going through a real struggle. They are going through a phenomenon that requires patience and love to deal with. I'm also not going to mince words about how they were created, and that there's answers within the creation where they can find who God made them to be. And I think that you have to ask yourself if there's a bias when you just automatically look past all the information that's present for you, and you decide that you are going to not follow through with even what your biology is telling you. You know, it's one of those things where it's just a really difficult situation. So,
Yeah.
and we're just gonna see more and more of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it, and it's an aggressive like
oh yeah,
you know, like the gay community, which the trans community and the gay community, they sort of
intermingle,
live harmoniously, but it's an
sort of, especially when you start getting into like the intersex and
yeah, like it's an aggressive. What am I trying to say? Agenda.
Sure,
it's an aggressive agenda. And
well, and we're gonna see more and more of it. There's a push on pretty much all of our shows.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially the younger shows. The like. CW.
I was joking with someone. We have to get to our game. People are on standby real quick.
Right.
I was joking with someone. So Rugrats is coming back, right?
Oh,
the
geez.
cartoon Rugrats.
Yeah.
And always in Rugrats there was a lesson, right? Like
right.
the kids went through something, but there's a lesson.
Right. It's no DuckTales. It's no Muppet Babies, but
whatever. But I was joking with someone that like I'm excited for that show to come back because that was a cartoon I grew up on. But the lessons, I cringe at the thought of the lessons they're gonna present.
Sure.
In the coming seasons of that show or whatever.
Right.
Like, yeah, you know, this is okay and this is acceptable and so on and so forth.
This is who you are.
Yeah.
That's the real issue. It's
that kind of stuff.
Speaking philosophically and spiritually, this is who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
no, that's not correct. All right, let's call our contestants for our game.
Okay.
We went heavy on the trans topic.
It's a big topic.
Yeah.
It requires so much more than we can give it in this amount of time.
Hello?
Okie dokie. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So let me introduce to you guys real quick. This is Greg of Southern California. We'll keep last names anonymous in case there's enemies. And this is Heidi of Portland, Oregon. You got it? You with me?
Got it.
This can span back as long.
Yeah.
Okay. So, without further ado, contestants can hear this song.
No, they can't hear it.
It's
But
it's good for our ears.
Yeah.
And it'll be good for.
in my head.
Yeah, it's playing in your head. Okay, so here is the first snippet.
Go ahead. Make a fool of yourself. And maybe you'll listen to your conscience.
Am I supposed to be hearing something?
Did you hear anything?
No. Not at all.
Really? Let's try one more time. Here we go.
Nope. Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. No sound.
that's weird. I can hear it.
Weird. Question. Are you guys listening
Describe the movie.
to the podcast while on this call?
No.
It was on the back. I was watching it on my phone, and then you called. I don't know how to turn it off, though.
Oh, technical difficulties. This
Technical
is no fun.
difficulties.
Bear with me. Bear with me. I have a different idea.
He's got a workaround.
Thanks for playing that, Josh.
Yep.
You must have awesome parents to instill workarounds in you.
Yeah. All right, round 2, okay?
Yes.
Oh, YouTube has a commercial for us.
That'll tell us whether they can hear it or not.
Go ahead. Is that the commercial or is that it?
That was it. Could you guys hear anything?
Oh my god.
It's Shirley Temple something.
Yes, Shirley Temple. I know that. It's
Is that...
Well, they definitely heard it.
They definitely heard it, so that's a good
But
thing.
maybe play it one more time.
I will play it one more time.
It's Shirley Temple. I know that.
All right, well, he knows it, so... You're both wrong. It is Pinocchio.
no. It sounds like Shirley.
Pinocchio. And now let me just say this real quick. You know how hard it is to find a Pinocchio trailer on YouTube when the movie was made like 80 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not exactly a lot of authentic Pinocchio trailers out there.
But I hear they're making a new one, so.
Yeah, okay. Bear with me one second as I pull up the next. Here we go.
Okay.
What was that?
Good guess. I think you're right.
Heidi with the Psycho?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Bingo!
Good job.
We have a hello from Kristen Groner and a
Never saw that one.
vote for the original Pinocchio from Cindy Kunkel, too.
Fantastic.
You didn't need to see it. All right. Here is the next one.
Oh, totes.
What is that one?
Mission Impossible.
All right, I'm going to give it to you. It's Mission Impossible 2,
Oh, shit.
but I'm going to give it to you.
I totally knew that it was Mission Impossible 2 because of Limp Bizkit's opening.
Limp Biscuit.
Yeah,
Who's Limp Bizkit? Yeah.
exactly.
All right. Next one. I'll do 3 more. Oh, another YouTube commercial.
That wasn't it, right?
Do you have the sound up all the way? It's really hard to hear.
Sure do. Here we go. I'm only going to meet you halfway so many times.
Is it the Dark? No, the Dark Knight is...
The Dark Knight.
Is that the Dark Knight?
All right, I'm going to give it to Heidi for locking it in first. The Dark Knight. That's 2-1 for those folks that are keeping track.
Yeah, that's chivalry what happened right there.
On to the next. These old trailers, they really take a long time to get into it.
3,000 years, man has searched for the lost ark of the covenant.
The Bible speaks of the unleveling mountains that lay waste to entire regions.
I'm going to go out on the limb and say it's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Bingo!
Oh, nice.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
They said something about 3,000 years ago they were searching for the Lost Ark, and I'm like, oh, take a stab in the dark.
All right, I'm gonna go. This is the tiebreaker.
All right.
Attention seekers. Well, here we are again. Hey, so what'd you do all summer, Danny?
Say that again.
Freeze.
Bingo.
Boom.
It is Grease for the win. Good work. I'm going to officially then announce that this is the end of the reign of John Parker of Milwaukee, Oregon, because his wife did not defend the title for him.
Well, and he missed like the last couple,
And
right?
he missed
Really
the
good, Heidi. I'm proud of you.
and he missed the last couple, so no more retaining your title while taking a sabbatical.
That's right.
But good job. Greg of Southern California, you can collect your winnings at the front counter. You can call me at a later date to discuss your winnings.
That's the talk out move.
Part of your winnings is that you get first refusal at defending your title in 2 weeks on the next episode. All right, guys. Thanks. I encourage you to keep tuning in. We got about 20 minutes left of the podcast. Goodbye.
Okay, bye.
All right. Can't say that went off without a hitch, but
Okay.
nonetheless. All right. Moving on to the next topic.
Okay.
Shazam.
Shazam.
This is a topic that might be
The original Captain Marvel.
near and dear to Josh. Yeah. So Shazam is a comic book by DC. There's probably something before it was DC because it's so old.
Yes, it was.
What was it? Trivia for Josh.
Oh man, I can't remember.
No, it was in the golden age.
No, I can't remember what it was. Christine Groner says you win a Red Bull.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. I'll look it up though.
Okay, so
It's
Shazam.
like he came over with a bunch of comic books.
Yeah. Shazam was going this whole section of Shazam from the golden generation of the Shazam comics was going to be reprinted, I'm guessing in honor and to help advertise the movie that's coming out. That was just the trailer was just released at Comic-Con. But they were going to release this whole hardcover edition of the comic book, but they pulled back because
Fawcett
Comics.
Fawcett.
Boom. They pulled back and they decided to not reprint this special edition of the Golden Age Shazam because of what it depicted. So first of all, this is a comic series back then that was like really great for its time, not just because of like the writing but also the art, and so it was really popular, and it was, I don't know, maybe key to just the evolution of comic books. So there was a lot of like fans that were really upset about this, just in terms of what this series of comics was to the genre and to that whole thing. But they decided not to print it because of what it depicted in it. There's, for example, and there's a screenshot on the article we pulled from. There's Asian characters that are part of the evil society of whatever. They're depicted with slanted eyes and they talk a certain way. There's a picture of a black man and he's talking a certain way. So they decided not to print it because of how controversial it was and how it depicted certain people and topics and whatnot. And so we get into this issue of censorship. So is censorship appropriate in, as Josh puts it, legacy libraries? And we've talked a little bit about censorship before, I feel like. I forget what we were talking about, but yeah, like, is it right? Is it right? I mean, I don't want to say anything that's going to be too offensive, but we'll start there. Is it right for political correctness and for insensitive, whatever you want to call that? I don't know what you would call it. Insensitive art?
I would say no. Wait.
Is it right?
Is it right?
Is it right to censor that? Like,
no.
Should they have put a kibosh on that because of
No.
what it was depicting at the time? Maybe it was a product of its time, you know?
Right.
Is that a reasonable excuse, quote unquote?
It's just, it goes back to, for me, it goes back to the Fahrenheit 451 issue. You know, it's what are we doing? Are we trying to quote unquote whitewash the history of our culture? The truth is that there was racism that was rampant and media approved. And to me, it constitutes a rewrite of the culture, to basically show people that we weren't this way.
Yeah, it kind of reminds. I'm just thinking about it, but I remember when I had a German exchange student. It was my senior year of high school, and he was saying that they really dislike, and I understand it, but they really dislike it and almost avoid it in Germany when you talk about like the Holocaust and World War II and stuff, because of how ashamed they are of it. So like, it's really not. It's like shunned upon to talk about it as part of their history or whatever.
Right.
That reminds me of that, what you're saying right now.
Right. Well, those were like atrocious in terms of.
Yeah.
That was atrocious in terms of what it physically did to people, but, even now, so it's funny. You've got two sides of that coin, right? You've got the one side of the coin where the Nazis went around and tried to rewrite the culture. They did exactly the same thing. They tried to rewrite the culture by burning books. And that was their thing. They burned all these books and tried to write their own books, write their own propaganda, and put those things into place in order to create a cohesive narrative so that the Jews were bad, that, black people were bad, that homosexuals were destroying things, so on and so forth. And so they tried to rewrite the culture. That's what the book burning was all about. Greg just threw in there, what does he say? It's actually a crime in Germany to deny the Holocaust. Yet, what do we see on the other side of it?
Yeah, well, sorry to interrupt you, but it's interesting because you've been there and I've been there too. We both went to Dachau.
Dachau.
Whole memorials are set up so that lest we forget. You know,
right?
Like, let us not repeat what we've done in the past, and let this be a reminder of the evil that we came from. You know. Sorry to interrupt you just now, but I was just...
No, that's fine. Gosh, where was it? We were talking about it on the Viral Vigil, one of our sister shows, and I think Jasmine was talking about it, but there was a country... Who was it? There was a country that is literally trying to deny their involvement in the Holocaust.
Is it a big country?
It's... is it Poland?
Maybe.
I gotta look this up.
I don't know.
Poland Holocaust law. Let's see. But Poland. Mm-hmm. So Poland was trying to deny their involvement in the Holocaust. They wanted to remove the term like Poland death camp and Polish death camp and things like that. And they were making it illegal to talk about their involvement in it.
Oh wow.
To me, it's like, what we're doing here is we're censoring. Yeah, totally. Greg Kunkel says, this is why I believe that tearing down statues of Confederate leaders is a bad idea. I completely agree. It's very similar to that thing, to that same thing that was taking place in our country with tearing down the statues. Mm-hmm. When you bring those things down, you are destroying the history. And it's not... Yes, I understand that the book is about celebrating the story, and the story has that history attached to it, but that's the context. It's the same thing that has censored that's censored like Huck Finn, for instance, in school. And I got in trouble when I was volunteering at a nameless public school when we were talking about language, and I pointed out that Huck
I
Finn,
may or may not have graduated from.
that Huck Finn has the N-word in it, and that, you know, it's still useful for people. But it is true. Like, there's a context to it. People need to know what happened in the past, the way we looked at things. They could easily, and I think this would be much more significant for them to do. They could easily put a footnote in there, or even highlight it if they want to, saying that this was inappropriate or whatever. If they want to do that, they could. But instead, they want to hide the truth. Probably, if I'm being honest, not because of any sort of altruism or any sort of great whatever, but because they don't want backlash for the new Shazam movie, which looks awesome, by the way.
It does. Yeah, and I'm just, you know, to bring it into our context of our show here, like I'm thinking about, you know, God saw fit to make it known that it was his people that wanted Christ crucified, you know?
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, like, so take that as a model. Like, history is important, and yeah, it's so that we don't go back to the error of our ways and stuff. Anyways, we can move on. We'll end on a silly topic. We're not going to cover the Animal House thing. There's an article that's talking about on USA Today that's talking about, is Animal House still funny or not, given the current climate that we're in, and, you know, the whole Me Too movement and certain things that happen in the movie Animal House. Josh has never seen it. It's
strange that I haven't
like
seen it.
Classic.
It's National Lampoon. I've seen like everything, but I
right.
just,
So
I don't know.
check that out. You can Google it. I'm sure it'll be one of the first things that pop up if you hit the news tab on Google. But Kids Bop. So there was a funny article that was talking about Kids Bop and how ironic it is that Kids Bop takes music that has content that is bad. And I don't mean bad like, oh, that song's so dumb. Like, bad as in what the song is presenting as, or what the song is glorifying. So they take these songs, they give them to kids to sing, but then they change certain lyrics within the songs to make it more kid-friendly, but the whole context of the song is still the meaning, even if you're not saying, you know, this word or this phrase or that phrase.
Right.
And so it makes me laugh, and also it makes me cringe at some of the things that parents let their kids listen to without thinking critically about it. But our question is, should music be enjoyed outside of its context? I mean, you can talk about movies and stuff too, and, you know, you get into like a maturity thing, but should music be enjoyed outside of its context? Yes or no? We've talked about this before. I'm just, you know, to wrap it up, about thinking critically about all things, you know. Don't listen to things with blinders on. Don't watch things with blinders on, so to speak, and all these different things, but I'll let you speak for a second.
No, I don't think so. I think that you can put the context away once you state the context, but that you should not try to replace the context, because then we go back to the conversation about Shazam and censorship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, and you can, like, appreciate a song, right, for its musical this or musical that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know...
Well, and this is a huge topic of conversation with my daughter, Sophia, because she is... Gosh, she's 6 now, like, just about.
Yep.
And she is all about Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift's new album is just horrendous in terms of its value of humanity. It's like hypersexualized. It's all about, like, listen to the song "Gorgeous" and like just look at the way that she just, it's just terrible. It's like lustful. That said, it's great in terms of its production. Like, in terms of pop music, it's produced really well. And so she really wants to listen to it. My thing with her is, well, first of all, no, I'm not going to listen to some stupid Kids Bop version of it. If you're going to listen to it, you might as well listen to the actual thing. That said, you need to appreciate it for what it is. So in terms of its lyrics are bad, but its production is good. And it is okay for you to understand that its production is good and appreciate it for what it is. I think that if that weren't true, then God would discard all of us.
I was thinking of two things just now. One is I personally like music that is really over the top in terms of its raunchiness or something like that, just because
Sure.
I can't take it seriously.
Like what's it? I'm gonna look up that song.
Yeah, whatever.
It's a Bloodhound Gang song, but I can't remember
Not quite the same, but it's one of the reasons why I really like Weird Al, just because of how
Totally.
ridiculous Weird Al is, right? But anyways, secondly, I first took note of this in any real sense, like a few years back when we went to Rose City Comic-Con, Portland's Comic-Con, and there's they have their whole kids section. It's kind of like a daycare type thing, you can kind of drop your kids off there and they can be occupied by things, Legos and different things, but they were blaring this song, and I don't remember the song, but I remember being like, what? Do they know what they're playing for these kids right now?
Right.
And I'm by no means some sort of
prude
when it comes to music, not one bit. But I was just like, here's these kids, they're left here, and this music is blaring in their ears. Is anyone talking about what the song is talking about with them?
Right.
Nope, it's just set it and forget it.
Right.
Let's let these kids take in this form of media, and, well, I hope they turn out to be good people.
Greg Kunkel says this is where we as parents need to be cognizant of what our children are doing, and as she gets older, we as parents can explain that to them. That's his 2 cents. Yeah, it's crazy what people will just put on mindlessly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, I found this song. It's called 3.14.
The Taylor Swift song?
No, the Bloodhound Gang song, where he screams vagina over and over.
Nice.
There's a YouTube video if you don't want it on your Spotify playlist, but I don't know that your YouTube playlist is even better.
Parents that just plant their kids in front of this or that because, well, they're lazy and they don't want to be parents, right? Parents that take an iPad out to a restaurant because it's easier for the kid to watch an iPad rather than to interact and ask questions and think critically because they're lazy parents.
Right.
I hate that.
Right.
It makes me cringe. It's some form of idiocracy.
Yeah, no, it's cringy. Yeah. And it's completely inappropriate. And I do think that there's a context in which these songs can be enjoyed. But when you remove the actual context from it, then you water down the song so much that it becomes a new life of its own. And I was saying this to Adam before we started the show. To me, there's no difference between Kids Bop and Muzak. Muzak, like elevator music, where they like the type of music that, no offense to Truth Time with Pastor Monty host, but that he likes to listen to, where it's like Kenny G does like a cover of something ridiculous. And, come on, we know what's being said in the music. I don't know. It's, Muzak, terrible. Kids Bop, it's terrible. It's listen to, if you appreciate the song and you want your child to be able to listen to it, but you want it to be safe for them, then guard their mind. Teach them what's wrong with the song. Use it as a mechanism, a springboard by which to teach them about critical thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oliver, my son Oliver recently started asking questions. Just tonight, we went to this concert in the park thing, and he's been specifically with music. He's been asking what is he or she talking about in the song.
Right.
And so I like that, and so I always try to make sure to address it rather than to say, "Shut up! I want to listen to the song," like some parents do,
right?
Or turn it up because I don't want to answer his questions or something.
Right.
It's really, really, really important. But anyways, all right. We've overstayed our welcome.
Okay.
If you're interested in today's topics or just staying relevant on what's going on in culture, you can check us out on Facebook or Twitter at Culture Insanity. If you have something that you're personally interested in, want to hear talked about in a coming episode, then just reach out to us on one of those two platforms. If you're interested in exploring your faith or are completely new to Christ, to the Bible, to anything, you can check out the Help tab on vigilance.blog or our not-so-new page, abfpdx.org. I would encourage anyone that is interested to check out this month August Cross X panel, cross-examination. Cross-ex is a panel discussion involving local pastors talking about Christian doctrine. In plain language is the key. So on August 26th at Zion Lutheran, downtown Portland, Oregon, right across from Providence Park if you're a Timbers fan, is Zion Lutheran Church. We will be talking about sin. That starts at 7 p.m. So any and all questions relating to the topic of sin, you can join us live in-house, as we call it, at the church if you're local, or you can tune in on Facebook Live if you were to click on the cross-examination Facebook page. You can tune in. You can ask questions online as the Facebook video is appearing live, and we will get to your questions. If you have questions, you can submit them with the hashtag CrossX on Facebook or Twitter. These panel discussions are really interesting and are really good resources for people that want to come to a better understanding of what it is they believe and be fully convinced by it, rather than just this is what I was told and so I accept it. Like our Mormon friends.
They're not Mormons anymore. They're Latter-day Saints.
They denounce the name Mormon completely and officially.
Right. Although they've always denounced the name Mormon.
But officially now.
Yes.
Anyways, so August 26th at 7 p.m. at Zion Lutheran Church. The topic is sin. Please tune in so you can better understand the topic of sin and how it affects mankind.
And for those who don't know what sin is, it's just defined as missing the mark. In other words, there's a standard, and if you mess up in any way, shape, or form, you're not doing right, and therefore it's called a sin. So if you want to know how that affects anything, or you have questions about all of those things, how God views sin, anything, this is the time to do it. And you can get questions to us before the
August
event.
26th, yeah. Highlight the words, there is a standard. But anyways, so that's all we have for you guys tonight. We'll be back in 2 weeks for episode 19 of the Culture Insanity Podcast. So thanks for tuning in, those who did and those who will. See you later.
The views presented in this program are not meant to express the specific views of the Lafayette Bible Fellowship. You are listening to the Vigilance Radio Network.